Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about oops, they did it again. Another man unlawfully deported, we now learn, to El Salvador's torture chamber prison. And this in direct violation of a settlement agreement that specified that anyone who comes here as a minor and has an asylum claim will not be deported until that asylum claim runs its course, notwithstanding which the Trump administration shipped him out. And yesterday, a Trump-appointed judge ordered them to return him, or to, in the words of the Abrego Garcia case, to which the judge analogize this, and it really is legally directly on point, facilitate his removal from custody in El Salvador. All right. So the Trump administration was doing some aggressive things back in 1.0, including to minors, and the Biden administration entered into a settlement agreement with a class of minors who said, we've got asylum claims, and the administration agreed to permit those claims of minors who came here as minors, have asylum claims. We will, as part of this settlement agreement, let you go through the process for those before shipping you anywhere. Now, just to be clear, the law, this is a straightforward, really contractual matter. You reach a settlement agreement with another party and the administration changes. That's of no moment. And you can imagine how topsy-turvy the world would be were it otherwise. You enter into a settlement agreement with the United States. They agree to pay you a certain amount of money. New administration comes in and says, never mind. No, that's not how it works. The settlement agreement was with the United States of America. A new president is just a temporary custodian of the power. So anyway, it's uncontroversial. The United States doesn't try to claim that they didn't enter into this settlement agreement. Here's the big argument. What is their claim going to be? You always wonder. Here's what it is. Well, yes, there was the settlement agreement, but as soon as Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act, that scuttled the settlement agreement and automatically nullified it for this 20-year-old man. Chris Dunn is how he's identified, being a minor. They don't give the full name. So, now not only the very tenuous interpretation of the Alien Enemies Act, under which the act, which has only been invoked 3 times during war, 1812 World War I, World War II, the administration is trying to invoke for a so-called predatory incursion by a foreign country, and that would be some members of the Tren de Aragua who are in the United States. That claim hasn't even been adjudicated yet, where things are now set up in individual habeas corpus actions in the wake of Judge Boasberg's collection of these cases, for that now to happen. But the administration, so not having had, knowing it hadn't had, it's very, just objectively speaking, very dubious interpretation of the law passed on by any court, nevertheless just determined, of course, on its own and with no judicial intervention. Well, since we've invoked this, now everything has changed. It's doubly wrong. Even if the invocation turns out to be valid, even if the courts somehow uphold the idea that the AEA means the crazy thing that Donald Trump says it means, this is a separate settlement agreement. You can have, for example, a general policy of how you're going to treat certain criminal defendants, and then you enter into a plea bargain with the United States that says, you'll have thus long of a sentence, or you'll be able to read certain things when in prison, whatever it is. That stands as a separate contractual obligation of the United States outside of the law, even if it were interpreted. So what they are proffering as a justification for taking away the fruits of the settlement agreement from this minor, Kristan, is exactly the opposite. It is belts and suspenders. He, when he comes to court, and the judge here now, the Trump appointee, has said, basically bring him back with, asterisk, as this is now understood from Abrego Garcia, meaning facilitate his return or facilitate his being removed from custody in El Salvador. She is now so he can have due process. When that happens, and she cites, Abrego Garcia, and it's just already kind of controlled by that case. But when that happens, he'll have two arguments to make, right? He'll have the argument to make, this Alien Enemies Act that they're applying to me, that's not what the law says at all. Oh, and by the way, even if it did, here is a separate settlement agreement, and that's been entered in the court record now, that says they won't do this to me, even if they can, because they have agreed that as a minor who came here as a minor and had an asylum claim, they've agreed separately that I will have the chance to go through that whole claim before I'll be deported, and the new administration can't just wipe that out and say we don't like it. So the very thing they're using to as I suppose a distinction to nullify the agreement, in fact, just is a separate reason why the Christian, the age 20, needs to be brought back. So now there's a lot of fighting about who is members of gangs and who isn't. And he apparently was arrested in Texas, accused of possessing cocaine. Fine. That might have ramifications for his ability to stay in the country. Not necessarily, by the way, to be deported as a member of the Tren de Aragua claim, but all that a judge gets to decide, not the Trump administration, unreviewed and unreviewable. And so we have a district court order now making that clear, and in addition, proffering a settlement agreement. And we have an administration not just violating with apparent indifference the order in the Abrego Garcia case, where they certainly are not, as they're supposed to be doing, providing information to Judge Zinnes so she can decide. But in addition to that, finding a distinction that cuts in exactly the other way and using it to say, oh, that's why we were justified in doing the precise thing that we agreed contractually not to do. So this is really the administration at its, I won't say most, but the competition would be too stiff for that, but at a clear moment of dishonesty, disingenuousness, and now the Trump-appointed judge has called them out for it. Maybe it runs now up the appellate ladder like everything else. But the idea that the invocation of the AA by Trump would somehow wipe out the settlement agreement is completely contrary to law, and not the way you can run a government or a railroad. So I can't see how that stands, that really threadbare argument by the United States. And now we have really two people in El Salvador who just shouldn't be there. And God knows how many others. Remember the ACLU, which first brought suit, said all 5 of their clients aren't members of the gang and the like, not to mention the fact that the entire legal basis for using the AA may yet be found, I think probably will yet be found, to be completely inconsistent with Congress's command under the AEA from 1798, and where it should apply, and that shouldn't be to some scattered members of the Tren de Aragua gang within the United States. So all this is now to be played out, but we have the renewed urgency of another person, a minor, stuck now in El Salvador, directly contrary to what the law and the settlement agreement provides. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.